So in this unit, we're going to discuss different day-year conventions. So basically, the calculation of interest takes account the exact number of calendar days in the period in question as a proportion of a year. So as a general rule in the money markets, the calculation of interest will take into account the exact number of days. So you will have to calculate what are the exact number of days and divided by the proportion of year. Now, the proportion of year can be different as well depending upon what convention is being used. So the number of days in a year is often not the usual 365. It can also be 360. So this is simply a convention used in many financial markets around the world, and you just have to make some adjustments in order to get the correct value. Moreover, there is one more convention which is 30 divided by 360. We'll discuss this later on as well. Basically, we're studying these three conventions. The ACT actually stands for the actual number of days divided by 360 and actual number of days divided by 365. So it depends which convention are we supposed to use. Let's look at an example. So a bank quotes an interest rate of 5.3%. So this is your rate on a deposit of USD 1 million. So this is the present value and at 360. So this 5.3% is the interest rate for 360 days. But in a year, you actually have 365 days. So if you want to know what is the interest that you will get over 365 days, you're going to use the same interest formula that we had discussed. So your interest amount is the principal amount times the interest rate. So I'm just going to write R days divided by the year. So the principal amount is 1 million. The rate is 5.3%. Now, what should come in days and what should come in years? The days above is the actual number of days. So in the actual, you have 365 days. So 365 is going to come over here. Remember, this is actual divided by whatever is the convention. So the convention is 360. So 360 is going to come over here. If you forget what is going to come, just remember that for the time period that you want to calculate the interest, it is going to come in the numerator. So the thing that you want to find the value for always comes in the numerator. You want to know the interest amount for 365 days. So it's going to come in the numerator, and the convention is 360. So that's going to come in the denominator. So if you do the calculation, your answer is going to come 53736.11. This is the interest amount. This interest amount is actually a slightly higher than if the actual days would have been also 360. Reason being that the interest amount that you are using is for 360 days. But the actual number of days are 365. So you are actually getting interest for this extra 5 days as well. Now, similarly, we can discuss this concept more by thinking about leap year. So in leap year, you do not have 365 days, you have 366 days because February has 29 days in that case. So how are you going to take into account the one extra day? You're going to get interest for that one extra day as well. So in order to do that, you simply will change this from 365 to 366, which will take into account the extra one day of the leap year. And if you calculate this once again, your answer will come 53883.33. So you can see that it is a bit higher than this amount. Reason being because you're getting interest for that one extra day as well now. So the interest is quoted for 360 days, but you're getting interest for 5 extra days. So you're getting a slightly higher interest amount. And similarly, if you incorporate the leap year as well, if it's a leap year, then you will get even a higher interest amount. And in the treasury, for a treasurer, this is very important. Even by a day, your interest amount is changing. So you really need to look at that, which convention is being used. Now, there are different conventions that are actually used in different markets. So let's move ahead. So there are different conventions that are used in different markets. The convention used for all sterling money market transaction is usually referred to as your Act 365. That is the actual number of calendar days in the period divided by 365. And the convention used for all transactions in the US dollars and euros is usually referred to as your Act 360. That is the actual number of calendar days in the period divided by 360. And most money markets do use the Act of 360 convention. The exceptions which use Act divided by 365 include the following international and domestic markets. So it includes the sterling, the Hong Kong dollar, Singapore dollar, Malaysian ringgit, Taiwan dollar, Thai baht, and South African rand. Moreover, the domestic but not international markets include Japanese yen, Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, and New Zealand dollars. Now, your question is not going to mention which act you're supposed to use. You should be aware that if these countries come, you're supposed to use Act 365 if these currencies are coming. For example, so over here it is said that interest is quoted on GBP 1 million. GBP 1 million deposit at 5.3%. The deposit runs from 31st October 2003 to 5th March 2004. What is the amount of interest paid? So nowhere you can see that it mentions whether it is Act 360 or is it Act 365. But we know that it's talking about the British pounds, which means that you're going to use Act 365. Now let's calculate the interest for this amount. So the formula that you will use is, let me first write down the formula. The principal amount times the rate, days over year. So the principal amount is 1 million. The rate is 5.3%. Now days over year. So you need to calculate what are the actual number of days from 31st October to 5th March. So October is gone. You have November, December, January, February, and March. Now, if you look at November, November has 30 days. December has 31 days. January has 31 days. February has 28 or 29 days. So now let me just look at the question, the original question. Okay, so this year was actually a leap year. So you're going to use 29 days in February. It's mentioned in your question, but it's not mentioned over here. This will be provided to you whether it's a leap year or not. So assuming that yes, it is a leap year and this information is provided to you, then in March you have 5 days. So if you calculate this makes a total of 126 days. So the actual number of days are 126, and the convention that you're going to use is, it depends upon what type of currency this is. So sterling is going to use 365. So if you do the calculation, you get 18295.89. So let's do another question now. So now this is another question. I'll wait for 1 minute for you guys to try it first, and then I'll do the solution. Okay, so like you can see over here that everything is the same. The only difference is that the currency that is being used now, because USD is being used, instead of using 365, you're going to use 360. So this is the only thing that you need to change depending upon what is the currency that is being used. And this is your answer in this case. Okay, so moving ahead to the 30/360 convention, there are some exceptions to the two conventions that we have already studied. For example, these Swedish treasury bills and the European bond markets, they use a convention called 30 divided by 360, and also it is denoted in this way. Or it is also called 360 by 360. In this convention, the year has 360 days, and the number of days in the period is calculated differently from the calendar. So each month is assumed to have 30 days, regardless of what the calendar says. You're always going to assume that there are 30 days in the month. So the 31st day of any month is treated as if it were the 30th day. So in short, every month has just 30 days over here. That's why 30 times 12 makes 360 days. So now let's look at an example how to do calculation if we have a 30 by 360 convention. Converting between the different conventions. So you can convert it from one convention, the interest rate from one convention to another convention. For example, if you have the interest rate on the 365 convention basis and you want to know what it will be on the 360 basis, you can use this formula to do so. Similarly, if you have it on the 360 basis, you can convert it back on the 365 basis using this formula. Again, the value that you want will come in the numerator and the one that you have will come in the denominator. Interest rate on Act 360 basis. So interest rate on the 30 by 360 basis, and then you have days in period measured on the 30 by 360 and divided by the days in the period measured on the Act 360 basis. So this is for the conversion if you want to convert the 30 by 361 into Act 360, or if you want to convert the Act 360 basis into 30 by 360 basis. So let's just look at some examples in order to understand this formula. So over here you have, so the question is that a dealer quotes for a EUR 1 million deposit from 5th May to 31st August at 4.7% on Act 360 basis. So this is the information that is provided to you. What would the quote be if the customer wanted it converted to an Act 365 basis or a 30 by 360 basis? So you need to convert it into the other two bases. First, we're going to do it for Act 365. First, you will have to estimate how many actual calendar days are there from 5th May to 31st August. So you're going to calculate them like we have already discussed, and it should come around the 118 actual calendar days. And if you can talk about the 30 by 360 basis, then it will be 115 days. I'm not going into how are we going to calculate these days, because for that you simply need to count the months, the number of days in each month, and then plus them. We've already done that in the previous questions. Now we want the interest rate on the Act 365 basis. So we're going to use all the interest rate on the 360 basis, the one that is provided to us. multiplied it by 360 and divided by 360. So 4.7% is multiplied by 365 and divided by 360. So you have converted it into the 365 basis. It is 4.7653%. You simply need to know the correct formula that you're going to use, and in order to help you out, I've told you that you'll use the rate over here. The one that is provided over here will be the convention that is provided, and then the numerator will be the one that for which you want the conversion. Now we're going to do it for the 30 by 360 basis. Now the formula for the 30 by 360 basis was that we're going to use the interest rate on Act 360 basis. So again, the one that is provided to you. Days in period measured on the 360 basis and days in period measured on the 30 by 360 basis. So now you know why we have calculated these days over here. This is going to be used in the formula. So interest rate will be 4.7%. This was provided to you. These two you have calculated them. So days in period measured on the Act 360 basis. So this is the actual number of days that you will count. So you will count the days from 5th May. So you'll take the 5 days of May, June, July, August. August is till 31st, so till 31st August. So June has 30 days and July has 31 days. Sorry, there's not going to be 5 days in May. Instead, there are 31 days in May, and the first 5 days are actually excluded from it. So there will be 26 days. So if you add this up, it should come 118. And similarly, you're going to do the calculation for the 30 by 360 basis. In that, you're going to take 30 in each month, regardless of what are the actual number of days in that month. So moving ahead, we have 118 and divided by 115. So you get 4.8226% on a 30 by 360 basis.